So I wanted to touch on some ideas around the sales process. So it was brought to my attention that that somebody was interested in empathetic sales, and I was like, man, right? Like I don't really know what that is. I didn't know if it was like a buzzword or a catchphrase or something, like something that was trending that I just wasn't privy to. And I'm familiar with the sales process. I've done like a million sales type trainings, and they talk about empathy in sales, but like I don't ever see that played out. So I did a little bit of a exercise around it. I don't know if we'll be able to do it with only 3 people, but we can kind of talk through like what if scenarios if it makes the most sense amongst the 3 of us.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to touch on a few ideas before we got there, just to understand what really the sales process consists of. Because, and especially for us as service providers, one of the things that I feel like gets confused a lot of the time as service providers, especially in the cannabis industry, sometimes we get a little confused about like our personal brand or us selling something versus your business selling something. There is a difference between your personal brand and the entity that you're trying to create through your business. Except in the beginning, if you don't have a lot of money to invest into a lot of things, like you end up being the brand on the front end to help develop the business brand on the back end. And that's a process because it takes a little while, one, to know yourself, to define yourself as that personal brand. Um, and then it also takes some time to develop the business brand, and what consists of that entity in and of itself. Like it doesn't matter if you have $1 million, it does take time, it does take manpower, it does take energy. So with that being said, part of the process of having a business is to learn how to sell. Because as nurses, we be like, I don't want to sell nobody nothing. Like that sounds kind of icky. Like that's a sale. Like salesmen are sleazy. Like the buying and selling process, we only really understand it from the buyer's point of view most of the time. And so as we transition into one, learning about cannabis medicine, but two, learning how to operate it from a business mindset in cannabis medicine. Part of that process is to understand where you fit at in the transaction. And as the business owner, you are accountable and responsible for the things that you're buying and selling, or I'm sorry, the things that you're selling to people who are buying. And so, what makes cannabis medicine a little bit more difficult, though, is the fact that we're talking about cannabis. Like we're not selling purses here. So, or shoes. I gave shoes the earlier as the example, because if we were, everybody would know that shoes were what shoes do. Shoes go on feet. Shoes protect feet. Shoes keep you from,
Necessary.
like everybody know that shoes is what we need. And you don't have to convince nobody of that fact, right? So the extra step in cannabis is that we have to convince people that cannabis is medicine. We have to take that extra step. We have to take that extra effort. And so I think that in this space, especially, empathy is extra important because you'll get hit with resistance in a way that feels very, very personal. It's like, I told you cannabis was medicine. Why don't you get it? Right? Like I told you, I don't understand why we still talking about it, because I just told you about the endocannabinoid system. I just told you about all these people whose lives have been changed. You already went through all of the traditional ways of communicating, yet the person on the other end, a lot of cases, really just won't get it. And so it's up to us to understand where they are. It's up to us to have the empathy to and the accountability to what we've created, to go the extra mile to make sure that the service that we're offering is accepted and is received. So I say all that to say, to preface why it's important. Um, and it doesn't matter what you're trying, like even if you were selling shoes, this conversation would still be important. Right. Like, why would somebody want a blue shoe versus a red shoe? What if they colorblind? So the first thing that, and Nurse Laura said it before you came on, the first thing that comes to mind is knowing the pain point. even when we talk about pain point, and somebody I've been working with for a long time, she struggles when I had this conversation about the pain point and identifying the problem. You have to know what problem somebody's dealing with, and sometimes that's not the problem we're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And so, even though we're not dealing with it, it's up to us to be able to explore and to ask questions and to inquire, almost like an assessment. So the same amount of effort that you would put into an assessment should go into the sales process. All of the insights that you're seeking, all of the psychological nuances that are existing in your potential client's mind, you go through the process of first identifying whether or not that person is a viable option, or a viable lead, or a qualified lead, whatever the word is you want to use. And then once you've identified that that's so, then you can identify what they're dealing with and how you can help them. If you cannot help them, you're responsible for saying that up front. I do not have anything to give you to support you with this particular problem. But if you do, you do have a duty and a duty to at least offer what service you do have available to help them with their problem. Because if you let them go on about the rest of their life with this problem, well, golly, you just done wasted all your gifts, right?
Especially the nurse. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, there is a balance when it comes to sales. It isn't just selling for the sake of selling, it's selling for the sake of service. And as long as we're in a place of service mindset, empathetic, or including empathy in your sales wouldn't be difficult. So once you understand what their problem is, then it's up to you to let the person know that I understand you. I get you. We are both equal people right now. You don't have to like you don't have to worry about what I'm giving you, because I understand what answers you need right now with the problem that you're dealing with, because I have put all this energy and effort into this product that I've created, or the service that I created, that I know it so well and inside and out that I can give you all the details to help you satisfy any concerns or curiosities that you may have, so that way you can benefit from the service. A lot of times salespeople forget to think about the benefit to the user when they're trying to sell you something. That is a big pet peeve of mine. Don't sell me nothing. I'm irritated with you as a salesman because you tried to sell me something that I don't need. And especially if I
Give us an example.
huh? Oh, and it's somebody that you know too that did this. So I was referred to somebody who is hosting live events, and I thought I was connecting with this person, but really it was a sales call. And I knew it was just because of the format and the way it was set up. And so I actually pushed it off, and I was like, and the person went out of their way to reach out to me. I said, oh, okay, like, fine, I'll get on this call. So I did, and goes on about this product that they're selling, or this service, and talked about themselves the entire time. I had no curiosity in this person at all, to be honest with you. After they finished telling me a ton about themselves, then asked me about me, and then went on to try to sell me this product. When in what I said I said that I've always loved community atmospheres, but that was what they were trying to sell me on this idea. Well, I already told you I have a ton of community that I deal with. That's not a problem that I'm dealing with. In fact, I have too many communities that I'm a part of. So selling me on the idea of community just isn't going to convince me. Right? And not only that, I told you I didn't need it. So I felt like you didn't even hear what I had to say. You didn't even bother to listen. So now I know you're not even here for me as a person. And so therefore I wouldn't buy anything from you. Not just this, but I wouldn't buy anything forever. And it happens so often, and for most of us who are mostly the consumer in most cases, those nuances kind of slide by and it can happen. But I think when we're talking about cannabis medicine in particular, I think that there's extra accountability on us as the knowers and the I guess I call light bringers. Like, we're the people who are bringing people this new age information, that we take the extra time to make sure that we are offering service first before we decide we want to convert the sale. Because the convert and it's a metric, right? So when I'm talking to my clients, they say, I want to increase conversions. All right, let's figure out how we can do that. That's a different conversation than what the sales process looks like, right? So if I tell you how to convert the sale, I'm going to give you a list of steps. Now, and then in the midst of the list of steps, I'm going to tell you to go find a person to convert the sale. And that's a job. That's a whole process. That's something that can be taught. That's something that requires intricate knowledge of your product and your service. It requires intricate knowledge of the why behind your product and your service, right? In order to be able to communicate to somebody who is looking to get something satiated or some desire satisfied, or, whatever the reason is that they're here in the moment. And if the reason, and I'll say this last thing, but if the reason in the moment is that I want to connect, allow that to satisfy as well. Because one of the biggest things that is a huge value add, and it doesn't matter what you're doing, is your network. So if a conversation doesn't lead to a sale conversion, the most valuable thing you can get out of that conversation